part of the best, but just have to do a little breathe back as you're coming off of 4. Now you're just flat out, 6th gear. Should see the rev lights come up on her steering wheel. There they start to just kind of come up a little bit.
Danica's coming off a 9th place finish at Kentucky 2 weeks ago. Best finish of the year was his 2nd at Texas.
Pretty good run off of 4 that time.
And we see Marco Andretti battling with Dan Weldon, and that is for position. Move Marco up into 10th and Weldon down to 11th.
And Weldon, with all the laps that we saw him do in practice, he looks so consistent and confident just working traffic out there. I'm surprised. I would have thought he'd been more up in the top 5, especially with the 2 top 5 finishes he's had prior to here, and he's coming back.
Yeah, he's going to get that position back.
You know, but that momentum he had as well, Weldon coming into here with the 2nd and 3rd, just gives you that extra little boost to run it in harder.
And that gives Takuma Sato, look at the run that he has now, closing right. That was actually not good timing. He closed at the wrong spot and had to bail out of it. Earlier, Jimmy Vasser was on the radio to Takuma, reminding him that he had more overtake assist than people around him and asked him to use it at the appropriate times.
And when you're in the heat of the battle in the race car, sometimes that's a good reminder, because you get so caught up in what you're doing, you forget that you have that, and it's just a good friendly reminder.
Moto passes E.J. Viso for 14th. Well, you're off the throttle forever, aren't you?
And that's the big separator on this racetrack, and just what you heard there, Bob, is the guys that are off it for a lot longer. I mean, that's the difference of maybe 3 or 4 tenths around this racetrack, or setting yourself up to get a run to pass somebody getting off of turn 4.
And the reason you have to stay off the throttle is as soon as you pick up the throttle again, it won't turn, because that transfers weight to the back. So you need to have a car that's really stuck at the front if you're going to pick up the throttle early.
One of the drivers having a great race is Graham Rahal, who's running in 9th position. There he is, just ahead of Dan Weldon. Graham is having a good race in the quick trim car for Newman Haas Racing. Graham Rahal running in 9th spot.
And as you said, Jan, he's disappointed because last year he had a great race car here, and he said, I'm coming back here with my same engineer, Martin Paré, and you know, if we're not on the podium, I'm disappointed. But he had a moment in qualifying that says it was as big a moment as he's had in the car since he crashed in Homestead in 08.
And amazingly, he said it was 2 clicks on the weight jacker that he had pushed, and he clicked it twice, and the car got wicked loose. Yeah, that just shows how close these cars are to finding that just perfect edge.
And to find that edge and be fast at this racetrack in that challenging 3 and 4, tough.
This will be our last commercial break before the checkered flag. We've 22 laps to go. Elio still leads at Motegi. Bob Jenkins, Jan Bikas, Robbie Buell, and Jack Arute at Motegi. Twin Ring Motegi, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd as Elio continues to lead. There he is at the bottom of your screen, and here comes 2nd and 3rd, Dario and Ryan, and Will Power, I should say. And the point spread right now is 12. Powers lead over Dario Franchitti. Castro Neves 86 behind in the point standings. Elio has pretty much dominated this race as we continue to look at 2nd and 3rd. The last time he got the 2 bonus points for leading the most laps was at Chicago in 2008. That's kind of hard to believe, isn't it?
Well, nobody has to be in Will Power's ear right now, telling him where Franchitti is, because he's right there in front of him.
Yep.
I'm sure Clive Hall is in his ear telling him something, but it's not where Franchitti is on the racetrack.
Yeah. Laps are clicking down. 14 laps to go as Elio crossed the line that time. His lead 3.2 seconds.
And he's closing in. He's got to think a lot about how aggressive does he want to be. Points-wise, you'd love to have that position, but you don't want to get it wrong.
But he wants to get as close as he can to Franchitti just to let him know he's there.
Oh, yeah.
And say, hey, my car's faster than you, and I'm going to make a move. Or at least let Dario think that.
Yeah. I think Dario has it in hand, but so interesting that he said we don't care what Power does and we don't pay attention to him. But right now you look in the mirror and you pay attention to Will Power.
You know, very, very similar, potentially, leaving here. When we go to that final race at Homestead, it's just flat out. Who wins down there, you know, potentially is our champion. I mean, you know, almost takes us back to, you know, a starting position after 17 races. He's closer.
Guys, you were wondering what Clive Howell may be saying to Will Power. How about nothing? They've gone radio silent for the last 5 laps.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, well, that's an indicator of, remember, because it was earlier where Clive was calling him and saying, hey, remember who we're racing, remember who we're racing, and he got that rather colorful exchange back from Will Power. I know what I am doing. And so he's letting him do what he knows what he's doing right now.
Sometimes when you get in that cockpit, you can get pretty animated. You know, it's a little different person sometimes with that helmet on in that cockpit versus the guy standing on the wall talking to his crew guys about the car. You transform a little bit.
Saw the graphic there. Elio is still turning laps at 197 miles an hour, and Dario also.
It's been Elio's day, that's for sure.
Yep.
He had that one wiggle that put him back. Thankfully, he caught it, and other than that, he has been dominant.
And it started with what he did in qualifying, you know, and the confidence that he has in that race car. And the guys putting the setup on the car saying, I know it can do this, and I'm going to run flat out around this racetrack. I don't care. I believe in myself, in this race car, in this team.
And he believed in himself last year, right? Up until he hit the wall.
But I think that just says so much about his willingness to be the best and to be the fastest.
Yeah.
Because like you said in qualifying, you got to be committed to run flat out into turn 3, and you better hope it works. And last year,
it did.
It did.
Another indication of how strong Elio's car has been. He has 8 overtakes remaining. The most of anyone still on track. Dario has 2 remaining and Will Power 4. And then Briscoe has 7 and Danica Patrick has 4, Jack.
Maybe the best compliment that you can give to a driver comes from one that we all respect named Rick Mears. Rick has worked with Will Power, and I had breakfast with Rick this morning, and I asked him what he thought of this driver from down under, and he said, Jack, he is exactly like I was. All he wants to do is race, and he breaks each race down into not individual laps, but individual turns. He said, when I work with Will Power, I see myself in the mirror. That's a pretty strong endorsement, guys.
Yeah, sure is. And Will continues to eat into the advantage that Dario has over him as they come up on a slower car. That would be Milcaduno. Ooh.
There, he's got a little bit of a run.
Oh, he tries to go inside. Not close enough. 4 laps to go for Dario, or for Elio Castroneves. We continue to watch the championship contenders running second and third.